Mr. President, 2 years ago, health insurance companies could deny women care due to so-called pre-existing conditions like pregnancy or being a victim of domestic violence. 2 years ago, women were permitted to be legally discriminated against when it came to insurance premiums and were often paying more for coverage than men. 2 years ago, women did not have access to the full range of recommended preventive care, like mammograms or contraception and more. 2 years ago, the insurance companies had all the leverage, and too often it was women who were paying the price. Mr. President, that's why I am proud to come to the floor today, 2 years after we passed the Affordable Care Act, to highlight just how far we have come when it comes to making sure women across America get the care they need at a cost that they can afford. Because of that law, women will be treated fairly when it comes to health care costs. Deductibles and other expenses will be capped so a health care crisis doesn't cause a family to lose their home or their life savings. And preventive care will be free so women never have to delay care because they can't afford to see a doctor. Because of this law, women will have more options. They can use health care exchanges to pick quality plans that work for them and for their families. And if they change jobs or they move, they'll be able to keep their coverage. Because of that law, maternity care is now covered, and women won't have to skip prenatal care because they can't afford it. Mr. President, because of this law, women are now in charge of their health care, not their insurance companies. That's why I feel very strongly that we cannot go back to the way things were. While we can never stop working to make improvements, we owe it to the women of America to make progress and not allow the clock to be rolled back on their health care needs. Now, I know some of my Republican colleagues are furiously working to undo all of the gains that we have made in the health care reform law for women and for their families. I'm disappointed, but I'm hardly surprised. Republicans have been waging a war on women's health since the moment they came into power. After they campaigned across the country on a platform of jobs in the economy, the first 3 bills that they introduced in the House were each direct attacks on women's health care in America. The very first bill they introduced, H.R. 1, would have totally eliminated Title X funding for family planning and teenage pregnancy prevention. And it included an amendment that would have completely defunded Planned Parenthood and cut off support for the millions of women in this country who count on it. Another one of their opening round of bills would have permanently codified the Hyde Amendment and the D.C. abortion ban, and the original version of their bill didn't even include an exception for the health of the mother. And finally, they introduced a bill right away that would have rolled back every single one of the gains that I just talked about in the Affordable Care Act. Mr. President, this law is a winner for women. It's a winner for men and for children and for our health care system overall. So I'm proud to stand here today with so many of my colleagues who are committed to making sure the benefits of this law do not get taken away from the women of America. We will keep fighting attempts to take them away, and I'm confident that we will win. Mr. President, while I'm on the floor today, I also want to rise to express my strong support for an amendment that will be considered today that will grow American jobs, help small businesses, generate revenue for taxpayers, and has strong bipartisan backing. Mr. President, it's no secret foreign countries are aggressively trying to seize the global market, and America needs to keep fighting back with a program that works for businesses and taxpayers and does create thousands of jobs. The Export-Import Bank is one of the most important resources America has to keep up this fight. For over 75 years, the Ex-Im Bank has supported job-creating U.S. exports by helping American businesses sell to the world. And no one knows this better than businesses in my home state of Washington, the largest exporter in the nation per capita, and where 1 in 3 jobs in my state is tied to international trade. Reauthorizing the Ex-Im Bank means that more than 150 Washington state businesses who rely on this financing to sell their products overseas can keep their jobs here at home. At a time when our competitors in the global marketplace provide far more aggressive export credit financing to companies within their borders, The Ex-Im Bank simply levels the playing field for U.S. companies that sells goods overseas. And the Ex-Im Bank helps create U.S. jobs and does not add to our deficit. U.S. exports have been a bright spot in America's road to recovery, increasing by about 20% over the last 2 years and driving about half of all of our economic growth. Given the obvious need for exports to power economic growth, it would be negligent to pull the plug on the Ex-Im Bank. If we do not pass this bill, by the end of this month, thousands of jobs will be at risk, not just from our exporters, but from businesses large and small across the country. Reauthorizing the Export-Import Bank would not only be a short-term victory for our exporters, it would also tell our trading partners that the United States is a stable place to do business and that we stand behind our products and our companies. So I urge a yes vote on that amendment when it comes to the floor later today. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the floor, and I suggest the absence of a quorum.